Without any warning. Without any warning. To duck, to duck, to duck. There might not be any grown-ups around when the bomb explodes. Then, you're on your own. You're on your own. You're on your own. You're on your own.
So what was life like growing up back then during the Cold War? Let's start with the schools. Location? Detroit. Back then, the motor capital of the world, or so they told us. They made it perfectly clear that in the event of a nuclear attack on the United States, we would be one of the first, if not the first, to be bombed. Why? Because during World War II, all of those auto factories switched over to building war vehicles. Living in Detroit proper, the schools held regular drills. There were the fire drills, which we all loved as it meant we would assemble on the playground and get a break from the stuffy room, and the duck and cover drills, which were different. I hated them. At one of the schools, we'd head to the basement, line up against the walls, crouch down, and cover our heads with our hands facing towards the wall. I remember thinking, if I'm going to die, I don't want it to be here. I want to be with my mother, my family. I knew where my mother worked there was no basement, and it was right across the street from a DeSoto plant. At any rate, living only a block away, I wanted to run home at least to be with my dog, and then I'd think about my blind grandmother home alone. Who would help her down to the basement? No, I totally hated those drills. It forced my mind to places a young child's thinking should never have to go. In the early 1960s, we moved to the burbs outside Detroit. The house had a basement. I was so relieved. Now we could build our own bomb shelter. But no, my parents thought I was overreacting. They put in a rec room. At the new school, each time we'd have a drill, I'd go home and beg my parents to at least build a small bomb shelter. I also worried because the new burb school didn't have a basement. In fact, it didn't even have hallways. So we'd crawl under our desks and ball up face down with our hands over our heads. Each time there was a drill, it was a reminder that the clock was ticking, and a sense not of if this was going to happen, but being prepared for the when. In October 1962, we all heard the clock ticking even louder. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, we learned that Castro, as well as Khrushchev, wanted our heads. With success of President Kennedy's peaceful resolve, I believe even those who did not vote for him began to appreciate our young leader. Looking back on the civil defense warnings and the duck and cover drills, it was so minor compared to what some people, especially children, have to deal with in other countries. My heart goes out to all those innocent people caught up in battles fought in their own backyard.
Brighter and brighter than new. Rinso washes, Rinso new. Rinso
65. Lucky strike.
Be happy, go lucky.
Fellow citizens, this government, as promised, has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere.